Thank you very much, Martin, and thanks to Murray Walker as well. Great commentator, lousy weather forecaster, Murray. But Louise is there with former world champion Damon Hill. On you go, Louise.
Thanks very much, Jim. Murray just described that as an excellent 7th for Damon Hill, but your face makes me think you disagree.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I feel disappointed, but it's good that I feel disappointed, if you understand what I mean, because we expected more, and it was so close. You know, Jack is a few tenths ahead, and he's 3rd on the grid. So I went out for the last run really hoping I could do something special, and I don't feel like I got the best lap I could on the last run.
Now, whilst you were quietly getting on with your business over in this corner, there was mayhem going on around Ralph's car. There were mechanics flying backwards and forwards. Are you aware of all of that?
Only slightly. I mean, I saw his car had parked up at Abbey, but no, my mind was pretty well on the screens and that sort of tantalisingly small gap between us and quite a few places on the grid.
Looking forward to the race. What are your predictions for tomorrow?
Well, I'm worried like everyone about this prediction of very bad weather. I don't know. I mean, we've done well. We're looking stronger now than we were a few races back. So I'm very, very pleased with the performance of the team and Honda and everyone. So we just have to keep pushing.
Cheers, Damon.
All right.
Everybody, perhaps with the exception of Michael Schumacher, worrying about the weather tomorrow. After the break, we'll be joined by another former world champion, Alan Jones. And you're back with us at Silverstone. Mika Hakkinen will start the British Grand Prix on pole, the 6th time he's gone on pole this season. Delighted we're joined by Alan Jones, world champion back in 1980, Alan. But I think Damon Hill's impressed you today.
He has. I was having a sneak out of the studio window when I could, and I was very impressed with his commitment into turn 1. I mean, he was going in there as deep and trying as hard, if not harder, than anybody. And it just gave me the impression that he was carrying that car around on his back, you know, and he had, obviously he's got all the Brits here behind him 100%, and he was driving like a man who had that.
What does that mean to a driver when you're spurred on by your home crowd?
Well, it definitely helps. I mean, I don't care what anybody says. You know, if you know that there's 80, 100,000 people out there willing you on, it just helps you get that couple of tenths that you may need.
But Tony, Mika Hakkinen, business as usual really for Mika today.
Mika is mighty. He's driving at a very high level all the time, and he's driving at a much higher level, I think, than David Coulthard at the moment. I think David has had a different setup on his car. He's had some problems in one of the sections. He's magnified that in his own brain. We were watching him shaking his head from time to time. Big conflab with the engineers, even Ron Dennis getting involved, even though Ron has pulled back from the engineering side and said, look, guys, you know, you get on with it now, I'll stand in the background. Obviously some kind of a problem there, and there'll be bitter disappointment, because he needs some points here, well, he needs a win.
Sure, but Mika Hakkinen, I mean, Alan, very much the governor today, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think when it comes to absolute raw speed, as we can see here, I think Mika has really got a bit extra raw speed. But David, I think, in many ways, is probably a slightly better race driver. But as Tony said, I think it's a bit of a head problem today.
It's going to be interesting, I think, Alan, to see if he gets under pressure from Michael Schumacher in the race. Hakkinen hasn't really been under that sort of pressure, whether he could take it or not. He had a spin in France, and we just saw a little crack appearing there. So it could be very interesting if he's under the big test from the German.
Well, if anyone's going to put him under pressure, it'll be Michael Schumacher.
Yeah, well, you talk about Michael Schumacher, or Damon Hill wringing the best out of his car, and Michael Schumacher got the maximum out of the Ferrari as well, Alan.
Well, he did, even to the extent maybe a little bit too much. I mean, Michael realised it was the closing seconds of practice, and he just got the thing and went for it. He's driving 11 tenths, and he nearly got away with it. I mean, he just went in a little bit too deep, went in a bit too hot, let the car go out too wide, and that just scrubbed it off. But up until that time, he was looking real dangerous.
That was a little bit earlier than that last charge. But Jacques Villeneuve from your old team, Williams, he's had a battle this year. But he, like all the others we've seen, he really is trying his best to pull Williams round.
Oh, absolutely. And, I mean, look at that. He's got the back coming out there, wheel out on the dirt. I mean, Jacques not scared of getting the wheel on the dirt. He's not scared of having a go. You know, they've done a lot of things to this car. I mean, Patrick's been burning the midnight oil and lengthening the chassis and moving the weight around a little bit, and they've certainly made some improvements. They're not quite up there yet, they know that. They've still got a little way to go, but they're heading in the right direction, and to see Jacques up there on the second row in third will be a great boost for them.
Yeah, we heard Craig Pollock, his manager, who was up here where you were sitting a couple of weeks ago, saying that Williams haven't supported him enough, and so he might be on his way. Do you agree with that?
Maybe there's a hidden message there, I don't know.
It's all about hidden whispers, this sport, isn't it, really?
Absolutely.
And Mika Häkkinen, he tried to improve. I mean, he had pole in the palm of his hand, Tony, and he tried to improve, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. And I don't know really what happened there, but it looked like the same sort of Mika Häkkinen commitment, now using all the curves. I mean, just look at him getting into oversteer mode. That's the great thing about him. That's what I love about Häkkinen. He's a real seat-of-the-pants driver. He really goes for it. He's exciting to watch. And I guess for the guys down there working for him, they get a real buzz from a driver like that who really wants to go for it.
Well, when you're comfortably on pole, it's a nice feeling because you can say, right, well, I'll go out there now and perhaps just if I overstep the mark, who cares? I'm already on pole.
Yeah.
I'll go out there and give it a real go. But I really like these new regulations because they do allow the cars to move around a little bit more, and we can enjoy the driver at work a bit more than what we did last year, for instance.
Yeah,
Sure.
no, I agree. Especially in qualifying, we're on a lighter fuel load. It's great to watch.
Tony, I know you spent some time with Michael Schumacher yesterday. How keen is he to win the British Grand Prix for the first time?
Very, very keen indeed. In fact, there were a couple of things we said because we were talking to the huge crowd here out the back and I was interviewing him. First of all, he did a rain dance for tomorrow. Secondly, I said to the crowd, do you want to drive for Ferrari? This is the mistake that we were talking about, that Alan was talking about before, you know, and him going too wide and too deep. But again, you know, it was right at the closing stages of qualifying there and he was prepared to go for it. And he nearly did it, didn't he?
Do you think that rain would change things dramatically tomorrow, Alan?
Yes, I do. I think the surface here at Silverstone is fantastic. I've got to say, it's been a few years since I've been here, and I'm so impressed. It's just fantastic. The circuit's very smooth. It's generating a lot of grip, but by the same token, that very same surface could come back to bite them in the wet. I think it could prove to be quite slippery. So it'll be very, very interesting indeed. And I think Michael in the wet, well, that could be another story.
Absolutely. Just confirm the grid positions for you for tomorrow's British Grand Prix. There we are, Häkkinen and Schumacher on the front row, Villeneuve and Coulthard on the second, Eddie Irvine and Frentzen and Damon qualified well up there in seventh, John Alesi and Johnny Herbert. So just a final word from the two of you about the race tomorrow. Tony Jardine, you first.
It's really all down to the weather. I mean, I think if it's dry, I think Michael will do very well to stay in touch with Häkkinen. But I think he could perhaps stay again ahead of Coulthard. So if the rain comes, for me, it's got to be the rain man, Schumacher.
And Alan, what do you think? I mean, Häkkinen, he had it in his palm last year and just broke down, 6 or 7 laps from the end. Is it his turn this time?
Well, I think so. The Bridgestones are a little bit of an unknown quantity in the wet. They haven't done as much testing as they'd like to. So it could be anyone's guess tyre-wise. But driver-wise, I think Michael's going to be very hard to beat. But as a spectator, I don't care if it rains because it'll be certainly interesting. As a driver, I'd prefer it to be dry.
Just quickly, this is a special circuit, this one, isn't it, Silverstone?
It certainly is.
Good. Alan, we appreciate your company today. Thank you very
Jim.
much indeed. And cheers, Tony. Thanks to you. Right, before we go, let me just point you towards F1 Special, or the Murray and Martin Show, as we prefer to call it, 4:30 this afternoon. Now you've heard him chatting about it. Martin driving Murray around Silverstone in that 2-seater McLaren, a very special piece of television.
The curve a little bit. Turns in nicely and hard on the gas now. Into hanger straight. 5th gear already.
And Murray enjoyed every second of that, I can tell you. Tonight at 7:45, the third place final between Holland and Croatia. There we go, that is tonight at 7:45. Now tomorrow, the glorious 12th. Quite simply, the biggest day in ITV sport history. We start off at 12 midday. I'll be joined by Bob Wilson live from Paris. The British Grand Prix itself, our build-up starts at 12:55 for that. And then after Coronation Street in the evening, Brian Moore's last commentary, the World Cup final, Brazil against France. From the Stade de France, you be sure to join us here on ITV at 7:45. And highlights from us here at Silverstone, the British Grand Prix at 10:30. A very special day indeed. Okay, well, the qualifying session has been something of a doddle for Mika Häkkinen, but 4 British drivers are there in the top 9. There could be a big home challenge here at Silverstone tomorrow. You be sure to join us. For now, bye-bye from us all. Bye-bye.
If you'd like to know more about Formula One, the website address sponsored by BusinessNet is www.itv-f1.com.